Hi, everyone. My name is Qiren Fang. Welcome to our webinar. And this webinar is sponsored by APS, Association for Psychological Sciences. Basically, they wanted to use this teaching grant to help us, especially during the pandemic, to learn more about online teaching technology. So that's exactly what the topic is. The topic is enhancing student engagement through innovating online technologies. So as we are talking, feel free to interact with us during the chat. I will make sure I save all the chats and look at it later. And feel free to introduce yourself. If you have any questions, make sure to put it in the Q&A so we can distinguish those. I would like to quickly do some introduction and we'll go into the briefing presentation. So today's presenters include myself, Qiren Fang, and my colleague, Virginia D'Antonio. We're from University of North Alabama and from the Department of Psychology and Sociology. So today's agenda, we would do some introduction first, and then we'll start with Dr. Virginia D'Antonio's presentation, and then my presentation. Hopefully each one will be about 20 minutes, and we would want to save about 15 to 20 minutes for the Q&A session. So that's why throughout, please feel free to put your question into the Q&A box. We have two student moderators to help us to manage the chat box and the Q&A box, which I will introduce them very quickly. Now I would like to, since we will start with Dr. D'Antonio's presentation, I would like her to introduce herself briefly so you know briefly what topic she's going to talk about.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. My name is Virginia D'Antonio, and I'm lecturer in psychology here at University of North Alabama. And today I will be sharing a few tools with you. One is Canva, which is a graphic design platform that I've used for assignments with students. And the others are from Canva Studio, which is an interactive web feature that you can interactively create quizzes, discussions, and film clips for students. And I have been teaching at community college and university level for over 20 years, and I have been teaching online since 2006. I guess that makes it 16 years of online teaching.
Okay, so for myself, my name is Qiren Fang. I'm an assistant professor in psychology, and this is my second year here. So today I'm going to talk about just a few online technologies, apps that we can use for primarily synchronous classes. And as you can also use a lot of those tools in asynchronous online classes as well. To start out, I have some, let me see. I have prepared a couple of questions and I would like to have some interactions with the audience. I have a couple of polls to know a little more about your backgrounds. So I'm going to launch the poll. I hope that whoever has joined us, I know a lot of people may be continuing to join us. You can see the poll over here. Feel free to answer these two questions. The first question is, what type of online courses do you teach or have you taught? You can choose multiple, but such as primarily synchronous or primarily asynchronous, half and half. I know there are a lot of formats, or you haven't taught yet. What are the biggest challenges you have in keeping students engaged? We just throw in a few ideas that we can think of out there and mix synchronous and asynchronous format together, but feel free to, if you have some challenges in other categories, feel free to specify in chat. We'll give you just about another 30 seconds and we'll see your results. So I can see only 5% is primarily synchronous, and about 50% is primarily asynchronous or half and half. Feel free to specify that in the chat as well if you want to. Let me just share the screen for the poll. Oh, wait. Share results. You should be able to see the results on the screen. So we have probably more people suggesting, maybe 60% suggesting that they are doing half and half. And then second by primarily asynchronous. The ones with the most difficulty seem to be getting students to actively participate in online course format platform multiple times a week, as well as getting students to view online lectures. I think that's certainly some challenges, especially also the challenges that I had was also getting students to participate in synchronous discussion and activities. Okay, so to start out, let's just get right into Dr. D'Antonio's presentation. Virginia, are you ready?
Yes, I will go ahead and share my screen.
Okay.
Can that be seen?
Yes, perfect.
Okay, great. All right, so as I said, I'm going to be sharing just a few tools with y'all today, and I am a sociologist, and my background and specialization is mainly consumer culture and also sociology of community. So I'll be sharing some student projects that we've done with these tools today. Most of these can be used cross-disciplinary, and also everything that I'm showing you today, I have used only in an asynchronous format, but I'm sure these could also be converted to a synchronous format as well. So the first thing, just to kind of set the tone for why this is important, research does show that the use of technology has a direct positive relationship with student engagement and self-directed learning. So it certainly does make a difference. And I wanted just to cover three main reasons why teachers should use technology in online classrooms. The first is that technology supports a variety of learning methods. So whether a student is a visual learner or an audio learner, or maybe works better with textual learning, all of those different methods can be met through the use of various forms of technology in your online classes. And it also helps students develop a better understanding of the material because they're interacting with it, which brings me to the second point. They become active participants in the learning process and they're more engaged with the course. So instead of just passively looking at a video or passively reading an article online, they're actively engaged with the material through technology. And the third reason is teachers who become experts at using technology in classrooms can certainly advance their careers. It has been a great advantage for me that I have had so many years of experience working with online students and in-person classes and also hybrid model. So being able to work interchangeably with all these modes has been really advantageous and makes you more marketable, especially if you keep up with the latest forms of technology. And you'll probably find that if you're in an interview for a faculty position, they always are going to ask you a question about how you incorporate technology and innovative methods into your teaching and your pedagogy. All right, so let me move to the next slide here. So being a sociologist, one of the things that I very much pay attention to is who my audience is. And I wanted to cover just briefly some information on Generation Z, because that's currently who are in our classrooms. If you're teaching high school or college, a majority of your students right now are Generation Z. And so as a sociologist, I'm also always looking at how generational influences impact who we are, how we construct identity, and the choices we make, and how we interact with others. So Generation Z, by most sources, were born between 1996 and 2012. And the first and probably most important trait about them is that they're called the digital natives. And this means that they have little or no memory of a world that existed before the smartphone. Pew Research shows that 95% of teens have access to a smartphone, and 45% of them say that they are online almost constantly. So this is certainly something that they are immersed with on a daily basis. And the second trait is that they are on track to be the most educated generation. They're more likely to have a college-educated parent than any other generation before them. They're less likely to drop out of high school, and they're more likely to be in college than any previous generation. So hopefully, they're going to be hungry for a good educational experience. The next trait is that individuality is extremely important to Gen Zers. They want people to know who they are, what their values are, what their interests are, what their beliefs are, and they're very willing to share that. And so, of course, the social media platform is something that they're able to express themselves through in this way to express their individuality. Personalization is also one of their character traits. They're willing to share basically all of their personal data in order to have the personal experience of being able to almost brand themselves through social media. So personalizing what they consume, what they learn, any product they're producing in a classroom is going to be important to them. And finally, unlike the millennial generation that came before them, so they've moved out of our college classrooms now, the Gen Zers are pragmatic and more financially minded. And so whereas millennials, it was extremely important to them to do something that they loved, just to be happy at a job, Gen Zers are actually willing to take something that they may not be as crazy about if it's going to be financially prudent for them to do so. So the traits that I had mentioned previously for Gen Zers, and I use this example, Coca-Cola's Share a Coke campaign that came out several years ago. So consumers are able to personalize their bottle of Coke, give it as a gift, use it at weddings. And so this is sort of symbolically what a Gen Z student would respond to as far as enjoying that personalization of the experience in the classroom. So here are just an overview of the online learning tech tools that I'm going to share with you today. The first is Canva, and Canva is a graphic design platform used for social media. It's also used for documents, presentations, posters, and all kinds of visual content. So I'll be sharing some innovative ways you can use that today. And then I'm also going to be sharing 3 methods, ways that you can use Canvas Studio. So this is built into your Canvas platform. It's an interactive video learning tool, and I'm going to show you how it can be used for video discussions, video embedded quizzes, and also projects and journals today. So Canva and Canvas, not to be confused as the same thing. Okay, Canva is a template that students can use to design projects. And I used this in my consumer culture class. Students created infographic projects using Canva templates, and they were able to input brand images, personal photos, and also text that match the assignment objectives. So the objective for this particular assignment I'm going to share with you was to apply consumer behavior theory in illustrating how consumer desire is socially produced. So this was aligned with a scholarly reading that we did from Russell Belk, who's a consumer behavior theorist. His work was called Possessions and the Extended Self. His premise is basically that our possessions are a major contributor to and a reflection of our personal identities, and we actually construct a sense of self through them. So this fit really well for the consumer culture class. Here are some, this is by no means anything that is meant for you to read today, but I can send it to you afterwards upon request. These are instructions that I included for how students can use Canva for the infographic. You can see I provided instructions for their mobile device and also instructions for how they could use it on the computer, a desktop. So as you may have experienced, I have students who much prefer, they would rather read a book on their phone, they would rather read an article on their phone, take a test on their phone, do an entire project on their phone, something I would never, ever consider doing. So I do feel the need to include those instructions where it's applicable that they can use this app in that way. And they also have a set of instructions of how to execute it on the desktop. So here are some of the student samples of their work that they came up with for this student infographic project. So you can see that they used some brand images. You've got down here in the right hand the Yingling Lager beer, and the student used this as an example of how in the article, Belk stated that sharing food develops a communal bond and shares a group identity. So he was talking about that as his personal experience with that brand. Up here on the top right, you see the Vans tennis shoes. And this student said he's worn Vans for nearly half of his life, and he sees them as a part of who he is. And he also related that to Belk's premise of clothing being part of a second skin or the extended self. And you see this student over here has highlighted the use of the cell phone as a part of who she is. Also, the other student used an iPad as part of who he is. So these are symbolic representations of how they construct identity through technology and other consumer products. These are two more. So this student over here doing the zip line is illustrating the consumer experience and related it to part of the article that part of her story is created through experiences that she has had. And that's something that is also highlighted through many other student projects is experiences and places they have been as part of their possessions that become part of their identity. And over here, you see this student use Netflix, so identifying that brand as being a very strong predictor of who she is now. And she related this to Belk's premise that places, that products can also often bring us together in relationships through a brand product. And she states here that she and her husband like to lay in bed watching Netflix together. And so that becomes a part of her identity. Students really enjoyed this project. I got really positive feedback from it, and it was a great way for them to provide a snapshot of how they construct identity through their consumer experience. All right, so now we're moving on to something different. So we're leaving Canva behind, and now I'm going to show you some of these tools in Canvas Studio. So this is a screenshot of a Canvas Studio discussion that I created. This was for day one, week one of a class. And I have at the top of the screen here, this is please view Dr. D'Antonio's welcome video. After you view it, you may like it or post a comment on it. This way I know that you have viewed the welcome. And so this is a screenshot of that. What you can't see underneath these bubbles here is that's me. That's a screen capture, a webcam of me. So in this studio feature, you can combine sharing the screen like I am now, also with having your face presented and talking over the discussion board of what you're sharing. So I blocked out the students' faces, obviously for confidentiality reasons, but you can see here that they have viewed the video and they have posted a comment. It lets me know that they have seen the video, they know what the expectations are for the first week, and they've commented on it. These small bubbles you see right down here at the bottom, those are the actual students whose faces you see. It shows me at what point in the video they paused to write a comment. And below what you see here on the screen would be the textual replies of the students in their entirety. This is just providing a snapshot of it for you. So this could be embedded into the discussion board feature in Canvas if you want to use it that way and set that up as a graded assignment, because you're going to be able to see how students are able to pause and comment on any part of the video or the discussion that's being utilized. And I'm going to show you how you can view the analytics on that in just a minute. This is another feature. This is a Studio Canvas embedded quiz. So this is something I just started using and I'm very excited about it. I realized in putting this presentation together that over all my years of teaching, I'm just a big fan of film and cinema, and I have incorporated it, to before I was working online, I would use film clips as part of a sociological prompt and discussion in class, and I still like using them in order to get across a concept or a theory. So I'm a big fan of using film clips, and you can find tons of them on Vimeo, on YouTube. And Canvas platform is equipped for you to be able to just go right in and paste that into your studio library where you can store all your videos, and they'll actually show up in all your Canvas courses if you store them in there. So it's a real useful place to have that as a repository. So this is an example of an assignment, a quiz that I created for my Sociology of Community class. They're going to watch a video on rural America and teachers. So this is what it looks like when the student opens the assignment. I tell them this is a 9-minute video. Answer the embedded quiz questions that will pop up for a total of 10 points, and they have 2 attempts to take the quiz, and that's up to you how you will determine how you want to set that up. You can see here you're going to be able to look at insights. That's your analytics, which I'll show you in a minute, of who watched the video. You can include captions for closed caption students, and then also quiz results, how well they did on the quiz. So this is what it looks like when they open and begin the assignment. The video is going to start. I screenshotted this, and these question marks here, that is where I have embedded the questions. So question mark number 1 will pop up at, maybe let's say that's at 3 minutes. The video pauses, the question pops up, and the student has a chance to answer it. You can make these all on your own as critically thinking questions as you want, or they can just be questions to make sure that they are, in fact, viewing the video and engaging with the material. And so this is what one of the embedded questions looks like. That will pop up, and they have the time. It's not time limited, so they will answer that question. Once they answer it, the video will then start back up again and go through the series of questions. This does auto grade all of those questions. You assign however many points you want to it. You can also offer feedback on each of those questions if they get one incorrect. It's a great feature. Students have given me a lot of really good feedback on it. They enjoy doing this. It's because it's making them watch the video, which they otherwise wouldn't do. For so many semesters, I included tons of videos and extra material. They're not going to look at it, but you attach points to it, and they're going to do it. This is the analytics that I was speaking of. So they've been fogged out for confidentiality, but you can see these are all the students that viewed that particular video on rural schools. And up top here, it shows you the amount of time they spent watching the video. So you see, really all of them got all the way until almost the 9-minute mark, and then it dipped a little bit. So that's just a good measure for you to be able to see, especially if you don't want to make this a graded assignment. You can still pay attention, maybe even give them participation points if they viewed the material and how long they stayed on. This is a Canvas Studio project that I had my Sociology of Community students do. So the assignment was to select a community of interest, and then they had to put a PowerPoint together and include all these elements of a community. So this just happens to be, the student did one on pottery community, which was great. And the assignment, this is more of a formal presentation. They had to create the PowerPoint and then narrate over the PowerPoint using the Canvas Studio video feature. So this is not only something that teachers can use, but students can as well. So they narrate over it. These bubbles here, back down to these, just like you saw earlier in the discussion, that was a final part of the assignment. They had to go into the discussion board and view other classmates' projects and comment on them. And so those bubbles are the comments and feedback that they got from their classmates. And this is a more informal way that you could use this Canvas video feature. Students often get fatigued with having to write so many papers, so many short essays, and doing too many textual stuff. So I started offering several different assignments for them to do as a video journal. This was actually an extra credit assignment for my social problems class. They had to create a public service announcement for a social problem of their choice. And this student chose to do the fentanyl crisis that is plaguing our southern borders. And she offered great information. The smiley face is her. So she is talking about her public service announcement, also while showing facts on the screen. Another format that I've had students use is just them presenting a video of themselves. So they have some prompt questions after they've read an article in the class, and then they have to answer those questions verbally, and they should be prepared, and most of them are. This again really mimics the social media platforms and tools that they like using, such as Facebook Live or just FaceTiming someone. I find that most of them are very comfortable with showing their face, wanting to talk about it, and all of these tools that I have just shown you, they seem to just kind of naturally be able to gravitate towards because it's something that they have already used in their personal life and leisure. So that is the end of my presentation. And if you have any particular questions for me, you can certainly put them in the Q&A box. And then when we're at the end of the seminar here, then I'll be happy to address those questions. Thanks.
Okay, thank you, Virginia. And so I forgot to introduce our student moderator, which is undergraduate student Robin Long and graduate student Kelsey Weaver. At the end, we will address the question, but there's a Q&A session there. And Virginia, I think that you can also answer it by typing your answer if you choose to, or choose to answer it live later. So now I will start with my own presentation. I'm going to spotlight myself. So I'm going to share the screen real quick about the tools that I'm going to introduce today. Of course, there are so many tools and there are more and more new tools coming out, so we cannot cover all of them. So I'll just cover a few that either I have used or planning to use. And I primarily will cover the first 5 today. My focus is on free access. So I don't want to pay anything. And I know a lot of people probably don't want to have constant bill coming from these kind of tools. I will at least introduce something that have a free version for you to use. So I know that a lot of you already know the numbers 6 and 7. So I will just only address those if you have a question. So I will not introduce Poll Everywhere and Kahoot, but I will introduce the first 5 by sequence. Okay, get to this. So I'll share another screen to start out with the first one, which is it's called the Wheel of Names. Remember that we are going to provide the slides upon request. I will show you who to contact. You will just contact Kelsey at the end if you want the slides. And to the slides, I will also add in some of the videos that I found helpful. Hopefully you're seeing the Wheel of Names. Sometimes it doesn't show in here. So can someone say in the chat or something that you are viewing the Wheel of Names page? Okay, yes, thank you. So we put a few of our names there. I will may as well just put, it's very easy to use. You just register and then I'll put, for example, Rojana. Put a few names on here, Kayla, and you can use it for different purposes and can customize it in many ways. Because of time, sometimes I can only go so far about customizing, which I will talk about it later. This one, we will have a prize of $1,000 for whoever wins. Just kidding. So we'll send you an email congratulations, maybe, if you win. So I'll show you what it's like. Myself, oh, Virginia. So once you have a winner, you can choose to either close it or remove it. I think when I share, I probably forgot to put in. So I will leave Virginia there. Maybe want to make sure when I shared it with the sound so you can hear it better. So let's do some customization here. You can do the different signs during spin, after spin, if we say we don't want it to be so loud or want something else. I don't know what this is like. The appearance, you can also change the backgrounds, etc. Use the different wheel background, which is You get a cookie, I guess. So let's see what it's like. Oh, myself again. I should buy lottery. So you can choose to remove someone if you have some kind of gift you don't want to repetitively give to the same person. Then after removing, my name is not there anymore. The way that I've used it, I've taught multicultural psychology and developmental psychology online. And sometimes I wanted to find a co-host from the students. So this is just some kind of a game to add something to be engaging and see who wins. Whoever wins, they would be the co-host, because when I'm lecturing, I want someone to be able to manage the Zoom environment, such as muting those who accidentally open their mic when they should not open it. So the second one is very similar. So this is also type of something called name randomizer. So I will also introduce another one called no hands. If you just put in no hands, one word, no hands app to Google, you will easily find this website called ehide.com. That's what you will see. It's still free right now. You can download no hands, very simple instruction. What happens is, let me open, I think it's probably here, that I open no hands already. After you download, it will be something like this. You can go ahead and this is the instruction. This will be the customization. There are two classes here. I can also put in some of your names. And for example, if I put in maybe Hai Jung Park. Hai Jung. Hi, okay. Something like that, you can customize this. Let's see what happens. And if you close this, you save. And of course, you can put it in this taskbar and just click it. It will show up here. You can, of course, customize it, the size, and whenever you click it again, it will be another student. That's what I'm planning to use even in my in-person class, because some students mentioned that they don't want to be called, they don't like cold call, right? But some students will be silent for the entire semester. I believe that name randomizing, they will see it as like fate chose you, not me who chose you or put you in the bad light. So I think I will see how whether they will receive this better and feel like, okay, since the fate chose me, I'm going to answer the questions. So something like that. You can also minimize, make it smaller or move around to different places. And since I use my laptop to teach in-person class, I can easily use this. And when I don't need it, I close it. When I need it, open it back up. It's very convenient, and I'm planning to use this because I noticed that even in a 10, 12 student class, at least a few will always be like silent. Now the next one, would this eliminate the names that were once selected? That one, I don't think so. For no hands, you have to go back in to delete it. But this is so easy to switch, so that I think it's probably easier to just click it. And if the same name show up, you just click another person because it's so quick. But for customization, this is just kind of this formats of customization to go here to change the name. Okay. All right. Now moving on to Padlet. Maybe some of you already used that. If you have used that, feel free to put it in the chat box. These are just some of the ways that I've used. Also want to make sure you're seeing the right screen. And there are so many different ways to make a Padlet. And I'm using a free version, which allows you to make 3 technically, but somehow I can get away with 5 for some reason. And these are some of the, it will be from the 2 classes that I've mentioned, either multicultural psychology or developmental psychology, such as what should husband and wife be like? I usually do a shell type of thing, such as if you make a palette, it will give you all of these options. I will provide some video if you request the slides that I saw some amazing YouTube video. We'll go through each one of them, but if you have questions, I know at least what these different types are like. I usually use the shelf stack contents in series of columns. If it's grid, basically it's in boxes that they lined up properly for you. For wall, just more like for them to introduce themselves. I can also use that for student introduction. So I will take a look at the example that I have. This is a year ago. If I ask, what should husband and wife be like? These are the actual students' answers. So you can see the pattern, want to see gender stereotypes, right? And you can see a lot of things that pop up: dependable, handy for the husband, and hardworking. And we can see a lot about responsible. I just try to show them what kind of pattern that you can see, or more words that pop up. This is a class with also some Chinese students. What should wife be like? Thrifty, frugal, comforting, caring, gentle. You can see that the wording or the frequency can be different, and we can just use that as a teaching material. You can add column here, but what happened is I will put the questions on top, and then the student's answer, each student's answer will be put into those little box. Loving, respectful, taking care of the family. Okay. Another example, let's see. This is about mate selection. What are the 3 most important things which you require for selecting your mates? If you are female, if you're male, although I think technically in this case, of course, can be multi-gender as well. I just put it simply like that. Okay, sense of this one, probably there are more female students there. And if you're a male, they want a sense of humor, etc. Can see sense of humor there, intelligence. And for female, you can see potentially probably some Chinese students answer filial piety, etc. So you can see that like responsibility. Just some example about what you can make. And this one, I want you to join in as well. So I'm going to share this with you. What technology are you using? I will copy the link to the clipboard so that hopefully all of you can join. As soon as you click the link, hopefully you can just put in your answers, because we are not just the ones who are teaching, we're learning from each other. Feel free to share the technology that you're using, whether it's on camera, Zoom, or other types of teaching tools. And when you add your answers, there are so many other ways that you can add, such as if you click click the 3 dots. There's some other tools, such as some kind of video, you can put audio. There's so many ways that you can put in. You can see, well, I'm going to also introduce Flipgrid. Maybe there are already some experts in here. Let me see. So Padlet basically is an online digital bulletin board. So you can see that in Zoom technology, for example, people are using Zoom, breakout room, WebEx. Wow, Tech Talk, that's cool. Flipgrid, I haven't heard about it before. So feel free to share what you are using the most or find it helpful, and probably can also put in some more information. So this is one way to use it. You can see as they answer. Because of time, I will just go quickly to the next one or see the other functions, okay? But I think that as long as you have the link, you can still see it even if it's not on the screen. Because of the time, I would like to also show you some of the functions. Oh, going back into here. There's some ways to share. Of course, if I already show you how to share, you can also use some function to customize the backgrounds. There are a lot of customization. You can allow them to comment or not. Now, for example, I allow them to like, but didn't allow you to comment. I screen out profanity, etc. Whether the new posts appear first or last, there are a lot that you can do. You can also, over here, you can clear all posts. For example, if you have 2 classes, then you want to clear posts and then use the same Padlet for the next class. As I mentioned, I will not pay if at all possible. So I would just, there's a function over there that you can also save as well, that I think is in save as image, save as PDF, or other format. You can just save it if you're going to delete it, and then you just go ahead and delete it and make new ones. Okay. All right, the next one that I'm going to introduce, let's see, is Jeopardy games. My colleague shared this with me, and I use it for primarily review purposes. So I'm also going to send this link over just so that you can take a look, or if you want to, you can modify. It's very easy to use. There are a lot on jeopardylabs.com that you can find whatever format others have already made. And this is for sensation and perception and the learning chapter in general site. Of course, this is based on if you know Jeopardy games, this is lined up by difficulty level based on how many points that they get. Usually I divide into how many teams, sometimes can be no teams if there are only a few students, and then do it as a review session, such as if they see this, then they will have to ask a question. Person working in a sales who get 2 commission for every 5 items is being rewarded in this type. That will be what is fixed ratio schedule. And if they get the point, those in team 2 get the point, they will add the point. Sometimes this can get very heated and competitive and really fight over the point. Sometimes if the one team cannot answer it correctly, I will have other teams to steal. If I say open to the steal, other teams will compete for either raise the hand, and sometimes have to use the rock, paper, scissors to decide which team to steal. So it can make a very engaging atmosphere. You can use this both online and offline. That's the same for Padlet as well. So the last one I want to introduce is Flip Grip. I noticed that some of you are already using it. So this one is kind of new to me. I heard about it, and I probably need to open the door for my dog very soon. So I'm going to just introduce this real quick. So here I created a room, and this one, the difference is that it appears that you have to, let me just open the door for her. Sorry about that. All right, so this is the team. I'm going to share this with you. There are 2 ways to share this. Either share the entire room or share the specific questions. So if I share this, I'm going to copy link, but note that you have to create an account to join this. So it's easier to work with a class that you can have the student join. But feel free to sign up, and then after signing up, you can answer these questions. For example, I asked, how's your day? And then this is a sample request from a student. This is more like a video. You can use it to create a video discussion. It's to create an engaging way to talk to students and get responses from students in a video discussion format. This is my student, Robin.
So far, so good.
Talk about her day. And then there's some already pre-existing question for check-in here. You can also check in the weeks and tell us about your week. That's a good way to start the online session. I'll just quickly show this. Oh, this is, I'll just choose here first.
My goal for next week is to hopefully make better use of my time.
Okay, So for the sake of this, let's see, we can also create a topic to show you what it's like. You can use another tools, upload video or film a video. I'll say introduce yourself or ask question. There's a limit. Or ask question. Okay. Because of time, I will just go this quickly. So this one, you can use a minute or up to 10 minutes to choose that. I'll just say like if you can have up to 3 minutes post topics. If you have that original link, then you already can access this question. So introduce yourself. If I only share this question, I can as well. That I'm going to share this. If you have to leave, feel free to put the email there. We will, if you request the PPT. Okay, so I think that's all that I have. I will end this with, if you have any questions, feel free to put it in the Q&A session. We will start the Q&A session now, and I will switch back to the slides that who you can contact for these slides. And on the slides, I will also put in a few video links for you to learn more about all of these tools, because there are so many ways to customize this. Switch back here.
Would you like me to go ahead and ask the questions?
Yes.
Okay, so we have 3 questions. The first, let's see, I believe the first 2 are for Dr. D'Antonio. The first question wants to know, let's see, if you have any insight about millennials and the online classroom, and if you have any tips to balance mixed age classes. You're on mute.
Virginia, do you have an answer? I think both of us can try to answer this.
Sorry, I was muted. I think that's a great question, and I'd be happy to chat with you even further about the whole generation thing via email after this if you'd like. But what I can say is, yes, I have had mixed age groups in my classes, and sometimes the older students have a bit of a struggle with wanting to incorporate and use the technology. But I have found I hold their hand, and I provide instructions, and I'm willing to kind of walk them through. I've also found that our IT support is very good about giving them more explicit instructions and walking them through. And what I found is eventually they see that there's a great benefit to utilizing that technology, even though it's something that they may be adverse to or not comfortable with at first, because they see that that's an added benefit, that what they're getting out of the classes, they're learning another form of technology they didn't know about, and that's something else that will make them more marketable as they go forward. But more than not, a majority of the students are going to be of this generation where they're comfortable with it. In fact, oftentimes they're showing me new features, and so I'm learning from them. My graduate assistants have been the ones that show me how to do this and the instructions. And so that's been a real benefit to me. But I'd be happy to talk about the generational differences with you afterwards, because there definitely are some. One I'll just say briefly, and that is that millennials were far more needy for instant gratification, believe it or not, and Gen Zs are actually, at least as far as work in the workplace goes, they're not as needy for immediate gratification, which is kind of an interesting finding.
I can answer to that question as well, since we don't have a whole lot of questions. Let me just kind of. Okay, so for this one, I I understand that there's in one workshop that I attended earlier, there are a lot of questions that we should ask the audience or the students, which I still keep some of the questions. If you're interested, feel free to email it to me. I can send you what questions we should ask students before an online class, because there are so many that, for example, how familiar you are with certain software. So don't assume anything just because they are like from millennials. We cannot assume that they are better at technologies than us, because a lot of it is also through learning process. So, or some of them might not even have a stable Wi-Fi. So, and you cannot assume that just because they are untraditional students, they are not as good at it. So I think to get rid of the assumption, we should do a survey or ask them, or maybe at least to make sure they have the basis, such as introduce them. I find it helpful to at least give a slide or two to tell them what kind of tools that they can use, and such as raising the hand in Zoom. You can let them know what function and show them real quick what it's like, instead of assuming that they know how to use that. Okay.
Okay, the next question is, how do you create the embedded features like the videos? And is there a specific tutorial on Canvas for that?
So there is, and I learned a lot of how to do it by going to those. So Canvas has a copious amount of instructions for every feature that it offers. And in fact, I link the Canvas Studio instructions for how to create a video journal, how to participate in a video quiz. I link those into my course in what I call a Getting Started module for my students that links them out to that Canvas platform with the explicit instructions on how to do that. And that's how I learned. And then they also have, Canvas has support where you can ask them questions and chat with them. And then your IT person at your institution should be well aware of how to either train you with that or how to show you where to go for instructions on it. It's very user-friendly though. I find it to be pretty intuitive once you know a couple steps.
Okay, and last question is, are the names from the Wheel of Names saved, or do we have to write the names every time we log on?
Yeah, this one I already answered that during the presentation. Yeah, the names from the Wheel of Names saved, or do we have to write the name? I think you can save it and just save it in a file, and then yeah, this one is different. You can save it in a file and you just upload it to the platform. You don't have to type it each time. Yeah, so many ways to customize it to make it easier. So I think if we, Robin, did you see any questions from the chat box?
No, I did not. I believe you addressed everything that was mentioned in the chat box.
Okay, that's accidentally saw a question and addressed it. So for the last 4 minutes, Virginia, do you have any? I wanted to emphasize that if you want the PPT slides for today, feel free to email Kelsey, and we will combine all the slides and send you a copy of that. And if you have specific questions, such as what I mentioned, the list of questions to ask students or whatnot, then you can email me separately. Or if you have specific questions to Dr. Virginia D'Antonio, then feel free to, all our emails are on there. And the last few minutes, I think, Virginia, do you have some quick tips to add or something like that?
The only other thing that I had that I thought was worth a mention is with the Zoom feature, using breakout rooms. I have used that actually in a synchronous format where use the breakout rooms and let students work on individual projects in those breakout rooms during a specific allotted class time. And then you as the instructor have the ability to pop into each room, chat with them, see how they're doing, answer any questions. And I used that in a class where students did a group project, which was a case study. And then we had a viewing party at the end. And the viewing party, we all watched everybody's presentation in real time. And that was fun. And that was, of course, during the height of COVID when no one was going on to campus. And so I think they enjoyed that interaction. So that would probably be my only other. Oh, and one other thing I did during COVID was I hosted guest speakers via Zoom and brought them into the online class. And that was really a refreshing experience because, again, everybody was on lockdown. And so I had these professionals come in and do like, a 50-minute talk during my class on a topic, and students were able to do Q&A and interact with them. And that's something that shouldn't be forgotten, that we have access to be able to do that as well.
That's great. The last couple of minutes, I just wanted to share something that I read as I was preparing for this. It's also, there's a few things that you can do in the beginning of a Zoom session, especially a synchronous session, to make it more fun and engaging, such as playing music as we are waiting for the student to join. Or usually you can start with either some kind of things each day, such as a short video, to be engaging the students. Another thing that I find it helpful is to greet the student as they join the synchronous session, and just greet everybody or as a group in the chat and welcome them, and that will really help them to feel engaged. The last thing is there's also some skills such as to pre-assign breakout rooms. I used breakout room before, and sometimes it would take time during the Zoom session to assign the students. There's some techniques that you can use to assign the students beforehand so that you can easily you can save some time during the session. If you have any other questions, feel free to put it in and we will try to answer you if you put your email address. And feel free to also ask questions through email. So if not, we will just end the recording here. And thank you so much for joining. And feel free to email us if you have any questions. Let me stop the recording.